First contact, first blood. When the alien ships first appeared, they did not come in peace. No orbiting fleet sending polite greetings. No cautious diplomacy. They came out of the void in perfect, predatory formation, angular black silhouettes that blotted out the stars, their hulls bristling with weapons we had no names for. In the first few minutes, humanity didn't even know they were hostile. The first blurry telescope images sparked confusion, even awe. Social media lit up with blurry screenshots. Is this real? Are we alone no more? For a heartbeat, the world dared to dream of visitors, of a first contact moment that would unite us all. That heartbeat didn't last. At 3:41 Greenwich Mean Time, the first beam struck Earth. A line of pure, blinding light sliced down from the sky, vaporizing a section of coastal Shanghai in a white-hot instant. The shockwave flattened entire city blocks before anyone could scream. Seconds later, Lagos, New York, and Mumbai suffered the same fate. The Vadran Dominion had arrived, and they weren't here to talk. All fleet units. This is Admiral Kato. Priority Alpha. Hostile action confirmed. Engage and defend planetary assets at all costs. Commander Mara Chen's headset crackled with the order, her jaw tightening. From her seat in the cockpit of the Dauntless, the Pacific sky was lit with fire. The orbital defense platforms were already streaking contrails across the clouds as they launched interceptor missiles upward, missiles that never reached their targets. High above, the Vadran ships were surrounded by a shimmering, hexagonal light. Mara's tactical screen called it an energy envelope. In reality, it was an impenetrable shield. Our best weapons, rail guns, missiles, directed energy cannons, hit it like raindrops on glass. She'd seen this in training simulations, but simulations didn't prepare you for the screaming in your comms. Omega-3, shield collapsing. Platform Bravo is gone. Repeat, Bravo is gone. Oh God, they're static. Mara fought to keep her hands steady on the controls. The Dauntless was an old orbital patrol craft, built for customs inspections and debris cleanup, not for going toe-to-toe with warships the size of skyscrapers. But right now, it was all they had. She punched in evasive maneuvers, the ship's frame groaning as the inertial dampeners strained to keep up. Below her, Earth's blue curve was dotted with burning cities. In orbit, the sleek black shapes of the enemy drifted forward in calm, deliberate formation, like sharks circling wounded prey. By the second hour, our fleets were in pieces. The Pacific Defense Group's flag carrier Indomitable took a direct hit through her reactor core. She didn't even explode, just silently broke in half, spilling burning debris into the upper atmosphere. The news networks tried to stay live, but one by one, their broadcasts went black, their orbital relays slagged by precise Vadran strikes. Entire communication constellations winked out of existence. On the ground, military installations were hit first. Then the alien beams shifted to infrastructure, power grids, water plants, factories. It wasn't random. They were dismantling our civilization, one strike at a time. Mara's squadron had been ordered to protect a convoy of evacuation shuttles bound for Lunar Base. Hundreds of civilians, crammed into outdated transports with barely any armor, relying on her. Dauntless a shuttle convoy. Stay tight on our vector. We'll keep you covered. Copy, Commander. Godspeed. She didn't believe in God, but she hoped someone out there was listening anyway. The first wave of Vadran attack craft came screaming in from high orbit, angular fighters that moved like nothing human engineers could match. Their drives didn't leave hot plumes. They darted silently, shifting direction with bone-snapping precision. Mara squeezed the triggers. Twin streams of tungsten slugs spat from the Dauntless nose cannons, the recoil rattling her teeth. One of the alien craft flared bright and vanished in a burst of debris, but two more slipped through, strafing the convoy. Shuttle 3 is hit. We're venting. Oh God, we've lost. The channel dissolved into static. One of the shuttles rolled, split along its spine. Dozens of tiny, fragile shapes tumbled into space before Mara's HUD marked them as life signs lost. Her stomach twisted, but she didn't have time to grieve. The fight raged on for another 17 minutes before the order came. All surviving fleet elements. This is Admiral Kato. Fall back to lunar orbit. Repeat, fall back. Earth defense grid is compromised. There was no anger in his voice now, no determination. Just the hollow tone of a man giving an order he never thought he'd have to. Mara's eyes flicked to the blue-white marble of Earth, already marred by smoking scars. Millions dead. Entire cities gone. And the Dominion hadn't even committed their full fleet yet. She guided the Dauntless into the retreat vector, her hands on autopilot, mind-numb. The convoy had lost 4 of its 9 shuttles. Lunar Base was still in the fight, for now, but it was clear they wouldn't hold forever. In the days that followed, humanity's world shrank. The Vadran Dominion swept across Earth in the orbital zones with methodical precision. Our defense forces were annihilated in orbit, driven back to scattered asteroid bases and deep space stations. Refugee fleets fled toward the outer planets, always pursued, always harried. But the most devastating blow wasn't physical, it was psychological. The Dominion didn't acknowledge our surrender signals. They didn't respond to messages. They didn't even broadcast propaganda. We weren't an enemy. We weren't a rival. We were pests. It was on the 3rd day of the invasion, aboard a battered lunar command post, that Mara overheard the word for the first time. She'd been sent to coordinate the defense grid with the remnants of the Pacific Fleet. The alien transmission, intercepted and partially decrypted, was simple. Pest control, sector Sol, operation duration, 18 days. That was it. That was how they saw us. Mara felt something shift deep inside her chest then, a cold, sharp thing. Fear had been the dominant emotion since the first beams lit Earth skies. But now? Now, it was anger. The next morning, Lunar Base came under direct assault. The Dominion had finally turned their attention to the moon, likely intending to wipe it clean as they had Earth's orbit. Mara's squadron was scrambled immediately. As the Dauntless lifted off from the lunar surface, she looked down at the sprawling habitats, the launch towers, the bunkers where thousands of civilians were huddled. The moon wasn't just a base. It was humanity's last stable refuge. If it fell, the only survivors would be those adrift in space. Her HUD lit up with dozens of red contacts. The Dominion ships were descending, their black holes gleaming in the sunlight. All units, target their lead craft. We break one, we buy time. The battle was chaos, railgun slugs streaking in bright lines, missiles spiraling, enemy beams carving molten scars into the lunar surface. One Dominion frigate slipped through the defensive net and lined up on the primary habitat dome. Mara's heart slammed in her chest. Not today. She dove, pushing the Dauntless engines into the red. The frigate shield shimmered as she hammered it with cannon fire. Warning screamed in her cockpit, but she didn't care. She kept firing until her ammo drums clicked empty. And then, a flicker. The shield dropped for half a second. Just long enough. The Dauntless' last missile struck home. The frigate's nose erupted in a silent explosion, the blast waves sparkling in the vacuum. The ship tumbled, venting molten metal and atmosphere. The dome was safe. For now. Hours later, the Dominion withdrew from lunar orbit. They could have crushed the base completely, but they didn't. They were moving on to other targets, confident they could come back and finish the job whenever they pleased. Mara stood in the command center, still in her flight suit, staring at the tactical map. Every major Earth city was marked in red. Half of our orbital assets were gone. The casualty numbers were beyond comprehension. The Vadran Dominion hadn't expected resistance, not serious resistance, anyway. And by their measure, they hadn't faced any yet. But Mara knew something they didn't. Humans learn fast. Humans adapted. And for every friend she'd seen die, every city she'd seen burn, something inside her hardened. The Vadrans thought they were exterminating pests. They were making soldiers. And the war they thought would never survive had just begun. The spark of defiance. The Dominion thought we were broken. After the First Blood, their fleet scattered across the solar system, sweeping up the remnants of our defenses like ash in the wind. Lunar Base remained, battered but functional. Pockets of human ships hid in asteroid shadows, far from patrol routes. Refugee convoys drifted in deep space, cold and silent, hoping to escape notice. But humanity had not surrendered. Commander Mara Chen stood in the dim light of Hangar 3, staring at the gutted remains of a Dominion attack craft. The Dauntless sat behind her, scorched but intact after the lunar defense. Around her, Teams of engineers and scavengers picked through alien debris. The Dominion fighters were sleek, jagged machines of black alloy, their internals a maze of organic-looking cables and pulsing conduits. "Careful with that," Mara said as a tech pried open a spherical device the size of a human head. It emitted a faint hum, as if alive. Chief Engineer Juno Harville glanced at her over the rim of his visor. "We think it's a power cell. Efficient, high density. Twice the output of our best fusion packs at half the size." Mara crouched beside him, eyes tracing the smooth shell. "Can we use it?" "Not directly. Their tech runs on a frequency we've never seen before. But," Juno grinned, the kind of grin that came only after 3 sleepless nights. "Give me a few days, Commander. I'll make it talk to us." That was how it began. The Dominion's first mistake wasn't underestimating our military. It was leaving their dead behind. Their war doctrine was brutal and efficient. Strike, annihilate, move on. They didn't waste resources retrieving wreckage. To them, a destroyed ship was garbage. To us, it was treasure. Within days, Lunar Base's hangars were filled with alien scrap, burnt-out weapons, hull plates that healed small cracks on their own, sensor arrays that could pierce asteroid belts like fog. Every fragment was catalogued, studied, pulled apart. Mara wasn't an engineer, but she knew the value of what she saw. Every piece we figure out is one step closer to fighting on their level. Juno smirked. "Not on their level, Commander. On our level. Because they'll never see it coming." The first breakthrough came in the form of a weapon pod, a compact turret torn from the belly of a Dominion corvette. The thing looked like a black flower made of blades, its petals folding inward when dormant. When powered, those petals peeled open to reveal a core that spat streams of molten plasma. The Dominion shields rendered it ineffective against their own capital ships, but against fighters? Devastating. The problem was power. The turret drank more energy than any human fighter could produce. But Juno's team had an answer. Strip out the old fusion core from damaged patrol craft, reroute them through the alien capacitors, and mount the turrets on heavy interceptors. When Mara saw the first test firing, her jaw dropped. The turret roared. The hangar lights dimmed, and a block of titanium alloy the size of a small car was reduced to slag in 3 seconds. "Congratulations, Juno," she said, clapping him on the shoulder. "You just gave us teeth." The second breakthrough wasn't a weapon. It was data. Lieutenant Ravi San, a former signals officer, had been assigned to monitor captured Dominion comm relays. They'd assumed the alien encryption was unbreakable, a constantly shifting lattice of symbols that rewrote itself every few milliseconds. But Ravi had an advantage the Dominion hadn't considered: boredom. "I kept noticing," Ravi explained to Mara one evening, "that every time they update their encryption key, there's a microsecond delay in transmission. It's predictable. And if it's predictable..." Mara's eyes widened. "You can ride it." Ravi grinned. "I can ride it. Not long enough to listen in on full conversations, but enough to intercept bursts of tactical data. Positions, patrol routes, supply lines." Mara leaned back in her chair. "You just gave us eyes." By the second month of the invasion, the Dominion noticed. Their patrols in the asteroid belt began to disappear. Mining outposts reported attacks by human ships using strange, hybrid weapons. Supply convoys were ambushed in the shadow of Saturn's rings. And everywhere the Dominion looked, their own technology was staring back at them, bent, twisted, modified into something unpredictable. On Lunar Base, Mara called it Operation Cinder. Small strike groups, never more than 3 ships, hitting targets and vanishing into deep space before reinforcements could arrive. They didn't aim to destroy the Dominion fleet. That was impossible. The goal was disruption. Make them bleed. Force them to overextend. And it worked. One night cycle aboard Lunar Base, Mara stood in the observation deck with Captain Elias Thorne, watching her through the reinforced viewport. From here, the scars were obvious, dark blotches where cities had once glowed. "They still outnumber us 100 to 1, Elias said quietly. "They outnumbered us 1,000 to 1 last month," Mara replied. Elias chuckled without humor. "You really think we can win?" Mara didn't answer right away. The truth was complicated. The Dominion's resources dwarfed ours. Their tech was centuries ahead. But They've never fought anyone like us, she said at last. Their wars are clean, efficient, against enemies who fight the way they expect. We don't fight clean. We adapt, and we don't quit. The turning point came on day 67 of the invasion. Intelligence from Ravi's taps revealed a lightly guarded Dominion depot hidden in the upper atmosphere of Jupiter, a massive platform housing fuel reserve for half the sector's fleet. The Dominion considered it untouchable. No human craft could survive the gravity well long enough to mount an attack. But they hadn't counted on hybrid drives. Juno's latest creation was ugly, an Earth-built corvette with Dominion thruster arrays welded to its flanks, the seams covered in crude plating. It looked like a junkyard had learned it to fly. But the drives worked, and more importantly, they could dance through Jupiter's crushing gravity like a leaf on the wind. Mara took the strike team herself. The approach was silent, masked by the planet's massive radiation belts. The Dauntless led the way, her new hybrid engines humming with alien precision. Behind her, 2 modified interceptors carried the plasma flower turrets. The depot came into view, a sprawling lattice of platforms and storage tanks, suspended in the swirling clouds. Dominion fighters drifted lazily around it, their patrols wide and complacent. Mara's voice was calm over comms. Targets marked. Weapons free. The interceptors streaked ahead, turrets spitting molten plasma. The first patrol was gone in seconds. The depot's alarms wailed, but by then the strike team was already inside the perimeter. The Dauntless railguns tore through storage tanks. Fireballs blossomed in slow motion, the explosions muffled by the thin atmosphere. Fuel lines ruptured, sending shimmering rivers of liquid fire into the storm below. Dominion reinforcements were only minutes away, but it didn't matter. The depot was a chain reaction waiting to happen. Mara pulled the Dauntless into a steep climb, the hybrid drive screaming. Behind her, the entire depot erupted in a blinding sphere of light, the shockwave rippling through Jupiter's clouds like the hand of an angry god. Back on lunar base, the news spread like wildfire. For the first time, humanity had struck a blow so deep the Dominion couldn't hide it. Mara's name became a rallying cry in the hidden channels of surviving fleets. Refugee ships that had been drifting aimlessly now had a direction and a leader to follow. But Mara knew better than to celebrate too much. The Dominion would retaliate. They'd hunt her harder now, deploy more ships, tighten their patrols. Good. Let them come, because the spark had been lit. And in the cold dark of space, sparks had a way of becoming fires. The Vadran Dominion had wanted extermination. What they'd get instead was a war they could never have imagined. The turning point, the destruction of the Jupiter depot, sent ripples through the galaxy. The Vadran Dominion didn't acknowledge defeats, not in public, not to their subjects, not even among themselves. But this one they couldn't hide. Too many ships depended on that fuel. Too many supply lines suddenly went dry. And for the first time since the invasion began, Dominion fleets faltered. In the shadows of the galactic network, whispers began to spread. Humans fought back. Humans destroyed a Dominion stronghold. Humans are still alive. To the Vadran's many subjugated species, these whispers were dangerous. Hope was dangerous. But for a handful of them, it was also irresistible. Commander Mara Chen wasn't thinking about hope. She was thinking about how to survive the next week. In the dimly lit briefing room aboard Lunar Base, the air was stale with recycled oxygen and tension. The table's holo-projector displayed a web of Dominion patrol routes closing in around the asteroid belt. They are tightening the noose, Lieutenant Ravi-san said, tapping one red line after another. They've left gaps before, but not like this. It's like they are hurting us. Toward where? Juno Harville asked from the corner, arms folded. Mara studied the map. Toward Sector Theta 9. Elias Thorne frowned. That's just empty space. Exactly, Mara said. If they can force us into open void, we'll lose our terrain advantage. No asteroid cover, no gravity wells, nowhere to hide. The meeting was interrupted by a soft chime, Ravi's personal compad. He frowned, glanced at it, then froze. This shouldn't be possible, he murmured. What is it? Mara asked. He hesitated. A transmission. Not Dominion. Encrypted, but it's in human code. Old code. Pre-expansion era. Put it on the main feed." The holo flickered, then resolved into the image of a tall, silver-skinned alien with 4 delicate arms and deep, dark eyes. Her voice was soft, musical, but the words were perfect English. "Humans of lunar base. My name is Kirill, daughter of House Vexen. My people serve the Dominion unwillingly. We have heard of your defiance. We wish to help." The room was silent. Mara broke it. "And why should we trust you?" Kirill's expression didn't change, but her voice dropped in tone. "Because the Vadrons took my mate and my children as collateral for my service. Because my world has been under their boot for 3 centuries. And because your spark has done something no rebellion has managed in my lifetime, it has frightened them." It was a risk, but Mara agreed to meet her. The rendezvous was set in the shadow of the rogue moon Clyta, far from Dominion patrol paths. The Dauntless drifted in silent approach, every sense attuned for signs of betrayal. The alien ship that emerged from the darkness was unlike any Mara had seen. Graceful curves of pale metal, no visible weapons, more like an art piece than a war vessel. But Kirill herself stepped aboard the Dauntless without ceremony. She was taller than Mara by a head, her silver skin marked with faint patterns that shimmered as she moved. Her eyes swept the human crew with quiet curiosity before settling on Mara. "I bring you information," she said simply. "A Dominion shipyard, hidden in the outer veil of the Graxon Nebula. It produces a smaller craft you call Razor Wings. Destroy it, and you will slow their patrol for months." "Why tell us?" Mara asked. Kirill's dark eyes flickered. "Because if the Dominion learns I have spoken to you, my family will be executed. If you succeed, it will still cost me everything. But perhaps it will buy your species time. And time, Commander Chen, is the one thing you need." The Graxon Nebula was a killer. Its dense, shifting gases scrambled sensors and 8 navigational signals. Ships that entered without careful plotting didn't come out. The Dominion had used it as natural camouflage for their shipyard, confident that no human craft would dare venture inside. They were half right. Mara took a small strike team, Dauntless, 2 interceptor escorts, and Kirill's vessel. The aliens' navigational charts were the only reason the mission was even possible. She guided them through swirling clouds of pink and violet, where lightning flickered soundlessly across the void. The shipyard emerged like a shadow from the mist, a sprawling spine of dark metal, studded with construction bays. Hundreds of razor-wing fighters clung to its docking arms like predatory insects. "Targets marked," Mara said, her voice steady. "Juno, light them up." The first salvo was surgical. Hybrid cannons spat molten plasma into the nearest bay, the explosion sending a chain of fighters spinning into the nebula. The Dominion's alarms came late. By the time their defenses woke up, 3 more bays were burning. Razor wings swarmed out, their sleek forms darting like knives through the haze. The Dauntless upgraded turrets tracked them with deadly precision, each shot bursting in bright, silent fire. But the real strike came from Kirill's ship, from a ventral bay. It launched a weapon Mara had never seen, a sphere of shimmering energy that drifted lazily toward the shipyard spine. When it struck, the entire central structure rippled like water, then tore itself apart in a blossom of light. The shockwave flung debris into the nebula, the blast glowed lighting the clouds for hundreds of kilometers. The Dominion pursuit was vicious. Razor wings harried them all the way out to the nebula, their beams carving molten scars across the Dauntless hull. One escort was lost in the escape, cut in half by a well-placed strike. But they made it. Back on lunar base, the victory was more than just another tally. It was proof that the Dominion could be beaten in their own strongholds. The whispers grew louder. 3 days later, Ravi intercepted another strange transmission. Not Kirill this time. A different voice, deeper, rougher, speaking a language no human recognized. The translation came through hours later. "We are the Dravik. We were born slave to the Dominion. But we have seen what you have done. We have destroyed 2 of their patrol ships near our homeworld. We send this to say, you are not alone." Then another, and another, minor species, scattered across Dominion territory, emboldened by the news of human defiance. They began sabotaging patrol routes, hiding human refugees, passing along intelligence. It wasn't a rebellion yet, but it was a beginning. Mara stood again on the observation deck, watching the stars. Kirill was gone. Her ship had vanished into the void after the Graxon mission, her fate uncertain. But Mara thought of her words often. Time is the one thing you need. She could feel it now in the subtle shifts of the war. The Dominion was still vast, still overwhelmingly powerful, but they were being forced to react. They were being slowed. And in the cracks, hope was taking root. The next mission came not from intelligence intercepts or alien contacts, but from the Dominion themselves, a trap, a feigned weakness in one of their outer patrol fleets, bait meant to draw out the human strike teams. Mara saw through it immediately. They want to end this before it grows, she told Elias. They know if they crush us publicly, the whispers will die. So what do we do? He asked. She smiled faintly. We give them what they want, and then take it away. In open space above the icy moon Nerex, the Dauntless faced down the largest Dominion force they'd yet engaged, a full cruiser group. The battle was ferocious, the void lit with railgun traces and plasma bursts. And then, right on cue, help arrived. Dravik warskiffs, crude but fast, darted in from the flank, slamming into Dominion fighters. From the far side of the moon, a ragged convoy of armed freighters, crewed by a dozen different alien species, emerged firing salvage weapons. The trap snapped shut on the Dominion. When the last enemy ship boned, Mara stood on the Dauntless bridge, listening to the comms ally with cheers in a dozen languages. The humans weren't alone anymore. The war had changed, and so had the balance of fear. The war they never expected. The dreadnought was the size of a small moon, an armored behemoth bristling with weapons so massive that one could obliterate a city in a single shot. It loomed over Jupiter like a metal god, casting long shadows across the swirling storms of the gas giant. For the Vadran Dominion, this was more than just a warship. This was a judicator, a symbol of inevitable conquest. Every system it had visited had fallen within days. Resistance was meaningless. That was the point. And today, it was here to end the human problem once and for all. Enemy vessel entering high orbit, Tactical Officer Lian reported from the Resolute's bridge. Scanning. Dear God, energy readings are off the charts. Commander Mara Chen stood at the command dais, her face set like carved stone. Her eyes didn't blink. That's their superweapon. Yes, Lian replied. Primary cannon could vaporize a continent, multiple secondary batteries, and shields strong enough to shrug off a direct nuke. A murmur of unease rippled through the bridge crew. Mara didn't address it. Fear was natural. Indulgence in fear was death. Any sign they know we're here? She asked. Not yet, her communications officer said. We're still masked by the asteroid field. Perfect. Just as planned. For months, humanity had been bleeding the Vadrans through sabotage, guerrilla strikes, and targeted ambushes. The Dominion had underestimated them before. But the Judicator's arrival was different. This wasn't about underestimation. It was about annihilation. Mara knew that in a straight fight, they'd be crushed in minutes. The Resolute, along with the rest of the human fleet, was faster but far too lightly armed. The only chance was to make the battlefield itself a weapon. That was why dozens of asteroids in the field now housed hidden antimatter charges, painstakingly stolen from Vadran depots. If they could lure the Judicator into range. Fleet is in position. Captain Darius Ven's voice crackled over comms from the Iron Fang. Once we light the match, there's no going back. We've been in the fire for months, Mara replied. We're just making sure it burns them too. She turned to Lian. Signal the bait ships. On cue, a cluster of small, fast human corvettes powered up from hiding and blasted toward the Judicator, their drives burning bright against the black. The Dominion ship reacted instantly, like a predator scenting prey. They are moving to intercept, Lian confirmed. Superweapon is charging. Hold them just long enough, Mara muttered. The trap was simple in theory and terrifying in execution. The Judicator would pursue, the corvettes would feign panic and retreat deep into the asteroid belt, and once the Dominion ship was at the center of the mine zone. Detonation. The biggest gamble? The Vadran shields. Their capital ships could shrug off a nuclear strike, but antimatter wasn't nuclear. It was annihilation. Matter meeting antimatter, pure energy unleashing a burst that even Dominion shielding might not fully absorb. Still, If it failed, the human fleet would have wasted its one shot, and Earth's last defenders would be cornered. Bait ships are taking fire, Leanne reported. The holographic display showed red flames where Vadran weapons smashed into asteroid chunks and vaporized fleeing ships. Mara's jaw tightened. Every pilot out there knew their odds. Some wouldn't be coming back. But they held the course, darting between spinning rocks, weaving in and out of sensor shadows, dragging the Judicator exactly where it needed to go. 30 seconds optimal range, Leanne said. Arm all charges, Mara ordered. The fleet went silent. Only the soft hum of machinery filled the bridge. Outside, the colossal Judicator loomed closer, asteroid dust drifting across its titanic hull like snowflakes on a glacier. Charges armed, Darius confirmed over comms. Bait ships clear. Mara asked. A pause. Then, most of them. The moment came. The Judicator, confident in its invincibility, plowed deeper into the field. Now, Mara whispered. The asteroid belt exploded. A chain reaction of blinding light and raw force ripped through the void. Dozens of antimatter charges collapsed into streams of pure energy, tearing asteroids into molten fragments and smashing into the Judicator's shields. For a moment, the Dominion vessel seemed to hold, its shields flaring white-hot, its hull gleaming in defiance. Then, with a soundless shudder, the shields cracked. Energy ripped across the dreadnought's length, gutting entire decks. Shields collapsing. Leanne shouted. Mara didn't hesitate. All ships, fire everything. The Resolute and the rest of the fleet unleashed hell. Railguns tore through weakened armor. Plasma lances punched deep into the Judicator's bowels. Missile swarms peppered its massive guns until one by one, the weapons fell silent. The Dominion ship fought back, swatting human vessels with terrifying bursts of energy. The Iron Fang took a direct hit and split in half. But the humans didn't break. They swarmed closer, hammering the beast until its lights flickered and its great engines failed. Finally, a plasma barrage from the Resolute struck the Judicator's main reactor. The explosion lit Jupiter's orbit like a new sun. When the glare faded, only fragments of the dreadnought remained, twisted, burning debris tumbling toward the gas giant below. On the Resolute's bridge, silence reigned. Then, slowly, the crew began to cheer. It was not wild, victorious cheering. It was a sound of people who had been holding their breath for months, finally letting it out. We did it, Leanne said, almost disbelieving. Mara exhaled and lowered her shoulders. No, she said quietly. We survived, and now they know we can fight. The aftermath rippled across the stars. Vadran fleets halted their advances. Alien worlds under Dominion rule began to rebel, emboldened by the impossible victory of the humans. The story spread of a species that should have been crushed, yet stood defiant. The Vadrans had sought to make humanity an example. They had succeeded, but not in the way they intended. From that day forward, a new name began to circulate in the shadowed halls of alien empires, the Unbroken. And for Mara Chen and the survivors of the Resolute, the war wasn't over. It was only changing. Somewhere out there, the Dominion would regroup, and when they returned, they would find that humanity was ready, stronger, sharper, and far less inclined to forgive, because the war they never expected us to survive was just the beginning.